you begin to sort of realize this is sort of part two to the last video. What makes living light beings like us to have such a, if you will, it's not that it's difficult, it becomes very challenging because you have to weigh every decision that you make on the nature of the energy that you're experiencing by the decisions that we make when we realize that we're in an energy field, if you will, that's so distorted and out of harmony and balance with itself, okay? And this is particularly true when I realize, well, if I go out this door, okay, I'm going to be experiencing hundreds and hundreds of people that have had so much light drained out of them. And of course, this falls into, well, what's their identity to begin with? Are they an android, a cyborg, a hybrid, or what are they? Okay? So your natural domain, or the realm in which you normally occupied, is what love is, which is what light is, which is what we normally experience. But that's not what I'm experiencing where I'm at. So I realize that every town and every city that I go to, this is not my realm, this is not my density, this is not my energy. Okay? So it's just like, man, I want to go home, right? So home for me is to live out in nature, where I'm always experiencing the living energies that are out there, because they're naturally always going to be higher. Okay? So obviously there are different places that I've been where you can experience the higher spiritual realms because you realize that you are what love is and living light. So you are living spirit. So there are obviously different places that you can go to where you can experience the most powerful spiritual energy, because the energy that you are experiencing that is powerful spirit is because there are powerful spirits that love to hang out that are producing that higher spiritual energy. Okay? That's one of the reasons why I love the Redwoods, because of all the places that I've been, they're very magical. So if I'm going to write the most beautiful stories that I know that exist in the cosmos to write, I want to be in the most spiritually magical place in which I'm connecting to the highest spiritual energy that is represented by the highest state of spiritual consciousness. So when you are around a tree that's 270 feet tall and has a diameter, okay, that's 15 feet in diameter, that's large enough that a car can drive through it, even though the root structure doesn't go down way, way deep, you are with a huge living body of energy. Okay? So when you are in a deep forest represented by big living trees, you are hanging out with an enormous amount of spiritual energy that is there. Okay? Which is one of the reasons why I love the island of Kauai, because the first time that I went there in 1972, there are places that I know where to go where I can hang out with very powerful spiritual energy. Okay? Just like I mentioned one time about when Misha had taken me up to Waimea Falls because she was working there in what is known as the Hawaiian Cultural Center, which is when I met, what's his name, Clum, who knew a lot about ancient Hawaiian culture. He was the first person that I met in this life cycle that understood what it means to teach in a circle of light around a big tree, okay? Holding hands and sharing knowledge, okay? Holding hands and connecting our heart wheels in the higher spin of our Merkaba together. So when every being that is holding hands and going into their heart and spinning their Merkaba at the highest rate of speed that we can, in which our higher density consciousness is wanting to experience the highest state of source consciousness. the purest light, the purest spirit, the purest energy. Okay? So when we are doing that in a larger circle of light, then you can imagine the amount of highest density consciousness from which source is producing the purest light. And scale that out across the grid. Okay? Scaling the waves, the electromagnetic waves of that much light, of producing that much love. It is now being sent through all the circuits, if you will, that people can experience in the grid. Because it's much like, if you will, that some people will describe your state of consciousness, which is what the light is in a computer system, which is like being a computer terminal. So you are like a terminal, a network terminal. So when you are a network terminal that is producing an enormous amount of pure light, which is pure unconditional love, you are broadcasting pure unconditional light that is being transmitted throughout the simulation. So it is very much, because it's artificial intelligence and binary, being inside a computer, and your light is in there producing an enormous amount of light in order to free all of the circuits, so that the circuits throughout everybody's physical body can experience the higher speed of the electrons that are powering that much light to experience that much love throughout every unit of consciousness that is within the simulator. A virtual reality simulation. So why would it be a virtual reality simulation? So that you can learn in a simulator how light works, how to get your electrons up, how to get your light up, so that you can experience the higher realms that are the heavenly realms within your own heart wheel. So that means that you are a temple of living light. That living light, when it's running on high-speed electrons, is powering all of the cells that are the communicators that have a relationship with each other. So now you are producing the higher scalar waves that are vibrating at such a high rate of speed that the light is being produced, and everyone becomes aware of more of the light. That allows the density of the consciousness to rise, from which we're all connected within that light, running at a higher rate of speed, which is the vibration. That will free ourselves from the negative energy, the negative current that is draining the life force out of us, which is what the light is, which is what love is. Which means all of our batteries were being drained. So how do you overcome the negative current? By producing more positive polarity. So I wanted to clear up some housekeeping items which had to do with when I got to the Big Island and realized that I wasn't successful at being able to mobilize the Hawaiian Islands in order to sort of clear all the negative current that is there, okay? Because I only have, even though I realize that I have access to, or that infinite light is what flows through my heart wheel, okay, in which I can scalar broadcast the higher frequency vibrational energies that allow us to be able to vibrate at such a high rate of speed, and then scale it out and scale it out and scale it out and scale it out. And I was doing that while I was there on the Big Island. And then when I got over to Oahu and I began to realize that I was in the most parasitic, vampiric, negative current zone that I've ever experienced. And it's an enormous challenge to be able to keep your positive energy up when everywhere you go it's trying to drain your battery, okay? Because it's aware of what you are because you are represented by so much light, okay? So this is one of the reasons why the Hawaiian Islands is one of the most corrupt places that I've ever visited. Because the entire governmental system, which means the county, okay, the state, are infested with demons, okay? So I remember having a long conversation. I don't know that I've ever mentioned this before, but I went on camera, on video camera, with the county council of the county of Hawaii. And I essentially told them the truth. Of everything that I've shared with you, that I've shared in these videos, I told to the County Council of Hawaii. I was there with two other Indians. One is the Chiricahua, which is related to the tribe from which Geronimo comes from, okay? There was another lady that was with me that said that a white bear was spotted down over on the Kona side, okay, which would be the west side of the island of Hawaii, which means there are a lot of Indians on the Big Island. They're trying to restore not just love as the law, but understanding that on this planet we honor the matriarch, which means not a kingdom. The king doesn't dominate. The matriarch is the lawgiver. So there are female elders, if you will, that represent tribe. Okay, one of the girls that I met over there, and I forgot her name, but she was Chippewa. I believe she came from Wisconsin, that is very active. They go to all of the county council meetings, okay? So I know that they have relationship with the other spiritual elders. This is where you sort of get into what you call, and as simple as this might sound for some people, but I explain it the same way that a dog pisses on a fire hydrant. Very territorial. These are our islands, they belong to us. So it's like trying to remind people that the planet itself is energy that is always on the move. Mother Earth does not charge anybody for what it is that she produces for all of us. So when we are all able to live in peace, love, harmony, and balance with all of us, with her who is the great living spirit of Mother Earth, who is living in the light, okay, because she is a living spiritual being in that light, then we recognize that the male doesn't dominate on this planet. Okay? The female is the birth giver of creation. The first sound vibration of love that a soul feels coming through the heart, okay, into a mother's womb comes from a mother. A spiritual mother. Okay? So how did that get flipped? The polarity. That's how. That's how everything is sort of always seen through the God side, but when they perceive God, when it's just let there be light, which is let there be love, if your state of consciousness perceives that through the male side, instead of the birth-giving side of creation, which is what love is, which is what light is, that comes out of a female, you flip your polarity. It means you see that creation comes out of the male side, not the female side. That's why when you see Baphomet, you see a man with tits. Now we're into all of the LGBT stuff. That's why you can see the effort that they've had trying to make it possible so that a male can give birth to life. That's a perversion of nature. That's why they represent self-indulgence and perversion of nature. Because life doesn't come out of a male. It comes out of a female birth giver. The archway is the birth canal of a female. Okay? Most females know this. Obviously, when she is producing the natural rivers that allow for sperm to be able to swim upriver, is provided in order for inception to take place. The inception of life, okay, begins in the female. The first thing to form is the heart wheel, which is the light wheel, which allows for the soul to experience all the light within the female. The female has all that light within her, upon which the first sound vibration of love is experienced by the soul that is in that womb. So much like being in the womb as a soul and a spirit in the female is no different than your soul as a seed being in the womb of a goddess in planet Earth. That's why as Mother Earth it is known as the home of the heart, which is the home from which all love is given through the light, which is what love is in living spirit. So that's why it sort of insults my intelligence, which is one of the reasons why ever since I was a child, I realized that when you're fighting a war, a spiritual war between the imbalance of the energies, which is a deficit represented by 007, 7 seconds of darkness, we need to balance out the harmony and the peace and the balance between the two, which means using more of the right side of creation from which love and light come, which is the creative side of a girl's polarity, which is why we come in on 2 downlinks and 2 uplinks. One is male, one is female. The female side is the creation side, which is the creative side of our imagination. The light side, which is living light, which is living spirit, is the sound vibration of what love is that a mother gives to a soul. So the girl in this planet is my spiritual mother. Okay? So I know that the DNA assembly, which is an avatar upon which I communicate to everybody on the planet, which is what love is in living spirit, is because of the girl in the planet that gave me one of these avatars that my spirit is in, that I can use as a communications platform to spread love and light wherever we go. So, having said that, it was the island of Kauai that was my biggest wake-up call, because I began to realize that this is the nature of having a spiritual relationship with a spiritual goddess who is providing for us everything that we need, which represents living energy, which is living spirit. And when we have a relationship with living energy and living spirit, we are home with a spiritual goddess. So when I realized that at age 21, living on that island is when I was the most happiest, the most joyful, the most living paradise in nirvana or Laniakea, which is the heavenly realm that I was experiencing within me in living spirit, that I was experiencing through her living on that island in a treehouse. So this is when I began to realize I don't need a job. I don't need their money. I don't need anything that comes from them, because everything that I need I already have, because that's what I am in living spirit, having a spiritual relationship in the great living spirit in Mother Earth. That becomes what I call 0 point. The 0 point from which all free energy come, which is what light is, which is what light is, which is what love is. That's what I've always referred to as coming full circle of light. The single geometric point from which the higher speed can be attained, from which we can expand that which we begin to perceive, which is infinite creative imagination that the light provides for us, because the light is what love is, which means we never run out of it, because that's what 0-point consciousness is. It means that we are always in the giving mode, which means we're always giving away more of what we are, because we're never going to run out of the paddle wheel, which is the spin or the power of the vortex, which is spinning the light, which is spinning the love, upon which that light and that love is being broadcast throughout our antennas wherever we go.